SABC News senior reporter Chriselda Lewis is at OR Tambo International Airport for us this evening. Chriselda, a bit of a murky story that we're trying to make sense of this evening. What is your understanding of what's actually been happening at OR Tambo with this plane load of people?
Well, Tamekile, I'm no immigration expert, so what we've reliably learned is that a plane load of Palestinians from Gaza's area was due to land here in South Africa this morning, and they were not allowed to land in the country because they did not have the correct paperwork. We understand that they were advised to divert to other countries on the continent, which we understand also refused them landing rights. They were then allowed to land here at OR Tambo International Airport on an emergency basis, we understand, and we still need clarity on this because the aircraft, we believe, was running out of fuel. So South African authorities, we do understand at this point, are aware that the Palestinians are here, but in terms of the laws of the country, you cannot enter without legal and the correct paperwork, like in any other country, of course. And you can only imagine this if they were to be allowed into the country without following those legitimate or legal channels. One could argue it would be precedent setting, but what we do know is that the Palestinians who are still on that plane fled the Gaza area, saying there is nothing left for them there, and they have some families here, and others wanted to connect to other countries where they have loved ones. So we do understand that the Border Management Authority is handling the matter at this particular stage, and we're likely, Tembekile, to get a press release from them relating to this anytime soon. We also understand that there's a social worker from the Gift of the Givers which had spoken to our sister program, who is on that aircraft, who basically described the conditions on that aircraft as unsavory. But surely in this instance, South Africa has no choice but to handle the matter within the prescripts of the law, and the Palestinians themselves cannot be allowed into the country. But we're hearing from the immigration expert, of course, that given that they're on the tarmac, they are on South African soil already, but of course without following those proper paperwork channels. So understandably so, this is as far as we can get, Tembekile. We're not allowed, of course, onto the tarmac. That is a restricted area. And, we do know that they've been there for a couple of hours now. We do know that border management had been in a meeting, and there's some kind of resolution that they're trying to come to in terms of what does happen to these Palestinians that have been on the tarmac. We're not sure at this particular stage if there will be any legal challenge that is going to be followed. Look, the details that we have at this stage are very sketchy, I must say, Tembekile, but those are the details that we have thus far, and we're waiting for official word from the South African government. They are aware that the Palestinians are on the tarmac, but the official authority that is handling this matter is border management, and we'll certainly wait to hear what that press statement will say about what the next course of action will be.
And Chriselda, the other thing that we'll no doubt be waiting to hear is more detail regarding these reports that in fact there had been a previous plane load in October carrying also what were told were Palestinian refugees that landed in South Africa, and that situation seems to have gone without much attention. In fact, so much so that our previous guests were saying those Palestinians are now integrated, if you will, in various parts of the country.
Look, I cannot give you official word on that, on what the immigration expert had spoken about, but certainly the media did get wind of the fact that this is not the first instance that has taken place. And I think that is one of the critical questions that government or the authorities need to be asked, is whether there had been a previous plane load or there had been previously Palestinians that were allowed into the country on this particular basis, as these are indicating they fled the Gaza area because there's nothing left for them there. Was that plane allowed to land? Where are those Palestinians situated? If indeed of course, what we need to ascertain if indeed this is not the first incident. But we're hearing indications that this is not the first incident. But we'll have to get official word once there is official communication from the correct channels, from the authorities, whether it be the Department of International Relations or the BMA or the South African government, about exactly what's to happen in this instance. Has it happened before? And it has gone undetected. Those are some of the critical questions that we need to ask. But certainly, Thembekile, as the sun sets now, those Palestinians have been on that plane for several hours. We don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of hours or in the next couple of minutes. But what we do know is that the South African government, or whether the BMA, there are talks that are taking place behind the scenes at the moment to come to some kind of resolution. And as I said, whether there'll be some kind of legal action that will also come from some quarters in South Africa, we're not sure if that's going to happen at this stage as we continue to monitor the situation.
And Chriselda, I say this with the caveat that you and I, like everyone else, are trying to figure out what exactly is going on here and get a full set of facts. And, you know, I was listening to you talking about the various questions, right, that we'll need answered. And what comes to mind for me is about who gave clearance, permission for the plane to land, because a national key point like OR Tambo International is not a place where anyone could land an aircraft without any anticipation.
You would have heard me a little bit earlier on, Thembekile, when I indicated that we did understand that this plane was due to land in South Africa this morning, but they were then diverted to other countries on the continent that refused landing rights in those countries. I think there were about 3 or 4 countries that refused landing rights on those countries here on the continent. Now, I do understand, and I really stand to be corrected at this stage, because information is still incredibly sketchy. We're waiting for official word from the BMA, is that this aircraft was allowed to land on an emergency basis. And I must say, I stand to be corrected there. On an emergency basis because it had run out of fuel. I stand to be corrected there. We're still waiting for official word. Everything is just speculation at this particular point. But those are some of the critical questions, certainly, Thembekile, that need to be asked about. How was the aircraft able to land in South Africa? Who gave the authority for that to happen? And on what basis? What we do know at this stage, and is speculation, is that they were allowed to land on an emergency basis because the aircraft was running out of fuel. Whether that is true or not, we'll have to wait and see. I'm waiting for an official statement at this particular time.
And Chriselda, we'll leave you to do more information gathering and speak to your sources so we can piece together the most accurate picture here. SABC News senior reporter Chriselda Lewis outside OR Tambo International Airport, covering the breaking news on the side of your screen there. A plane load of Palestinians having arrived at OR Tambo International Airport earlier this morning. As Chriselda was saying, they've been unable to disembark, not allowed, in fact, to disembark, apparently because their passports were not stamped as they were leaving in the last, well, when they left overnight, one would presume. Gift of the Givers in its statement saying Israel deliberately did not stamp the passports of the people on board this aircraft. It also says, Gift of the Givers, the aid organization, that the Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola, had basically taken initiative to write to the Ministry of Home Affairs asking to waive the requirement around the paperwork issue. Yet they said this could have been implemented by Home Affairs unilaterally on humanitarian grounds. So as things stand, while I'm quoting that statement, it's with the caveat that we're waiting to get an official response from someone in government and authority to explain what exactly has gone on with this aircraft from its landing to the status of the people on board.